Hey, you are listening to Oh Crap Parenting with me, your host, Jamie Glowacki. This is a podcast for conscious parents who drop the F-bomb a lot. All right, welcome, friends. Today, I kind of want to piggyback off of my core memory podcast with don't break your back trying to create memories because Lord knows what your kid's going to remember. And I wanted to talk about the notion of a slow summer. And I know by the time this is released, we're probably halfway through summer, if not more, especially if you're in the South. I know people in the South go to school earlier than here in the North. But I wanted to talk about slow summer because I see this inbiting on social media and people who have to work full time saying, I don't have time for a slow summer. I don't have time to lounge around the pool club or the pond or go for nature walks. I have to work and my kid has to go to camp. And so I wanted to clarify my position on a slow summer and restful summer and peaceful summer, because when I tell you guys to slow down, I don't mean things that are out of your control, right? If you have to work and your kid has to be in camp, then that's how it is. And camps are great. I don't think camps mean you're not having a slow summer, right? Your child can go to camp and I love the old school camps. I love the camps where you do, the jute bracelets and the canoeing and, just the old school campfires and learn goofy songs and the hand clapping games. But, I know there's all kinds of focuses for camps. So whatever your situation is, and I think this goes in general, because I just see a lot of this. I don't know how much you guys are online. I mean, you guys know I get lost in Instagram. I have to be on there for work. And then I get lost sometimes. So I just started setting timer limits again. But I'm always interested in the parenting pulse on social media because I know a lot of people are on it. And there's this real inbiting of people kind of saying, quoting oh, you're so privileged because you don't have to work, or, I have to work. And it just contributes to the inbiting of parenting. So if you have to work, don't put yourself in a victim mentality. You work, that's all. And, and it doesn't apply to you if you can't spend every weekday at doing something slow with your kid, right? It just doesn't apply to you. But I also think in general, we can slow down and be more lazy kid focused. And I'll give you some examples. I think there's just a lot, even if you get out of work and it's 5 or 6 o'clock and your kid's in aftercare maybe or staying at a friend's house or something, you can still have a slow summer even though you work. And so part of that is just hanging out. And kids remember the funnest things. So maybe it's a camp out in your backyard if you have a yard. Maybe if you're in an apartment, you buy a 1-person, 2-person tent and you pretend to camp inside. Maybe it's setting up a hammock in your living room, or maybe it's setting up a hammock in the backyard. Maybe it's just having some fun games that are kid-centric as opposed to organized activities. And I've been hearing from more and more people in the Oh Crap Cafe, that's our online parenting community, and people who are saying I have drastically slowed down and my life has remarkably changed. By slowing down, what mostly that means is kind of giving up on these organized activities, especially for the under 5 crowd, because it just runs you ragged. It's usually not connection time. And yeah, it can be a break for you as the parent, but especially when both parents or you're a single parent are working outside the home, your kids need connection time and they just need so little. They need you. That's all. And I know you get out of work and you're exhausted and you're like, shit, now I got to play with my kid. So this is another thing I'm seeing all over social media, which is an inbiting of, I don't want to play with my kids. And you shouldn't have had kids if you don't want to play with them. And I love playing with my kid and blah, 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 blah. I don't know if you follow Big Time Adulting. She's hilarious. She's one of the better parenting accounts. She's if you don't follow her, it's big time adulting and she's great. But she just posted something about like, no, I don't like playing with my kids. It's like awful. It's the worst thing. And I'm like, yeah, hell yeah. We're not supposed to play with kids. Like your kid is not your best friend. I hate when I see people like, oh, my little guy's my best friend. You're an adult. He's a 2-year-old. That should not be your best friend. Can you have a lovely time with your child? Yes. But like, don't put best friend on your kid. It's going to set you up for trouble. Now, if you don't enjoy playing with your kids, you're in the majority of parents because we're not meant to be our kids' playmates. And, back in days of yore, we had, 12 kids because, the infant mortality was super high and we needed kids to work the farm and kids had siblings to play with. And I know that can be challenging now because a lot of us have one kid or just 2 kids. And so, sometimes you do have to play with your kid, but we're not meant to play pretend. We live in the real world and our minds don't work like that. So we are shitty playmates. And sometimes, if you want to play catch, you usually need a playmate, right? Or you want to play something that requires a partner, you have to play. But I've talked about this before, right? You can always bounce a ball against a wall. You can always, if you want to play checkers or chess, you can play on the computer. There's ways to get around that, but find something you do enjoy with your kids. And what you can do is set up some fun things. And I will never forget Pascal's kindergarten birthday. So he must have been turning 6. And it was a thunderstorm. It was awful. We couldn't be outside. So the night before I was like, oh shit, what am I going to do with these kids inside? And I said, all right, I looked up fun games and, I am an ex-circus performer. So I was like, all right, worst comes to worst, I can juggle fire or something. So I wasn't terribly afraid, but I found some terrific games. And, one was of course an egg walk and you walk with an egg on a spoon and you just try to not drop the egg and you can increase the dramatic effect of this by using a hard-boiled egg and then moving to a real egg. And if it drops, it breaks. There's so many great ideas online. But the best thing, and this would be a great summer game for any family of any size, is however many kids there are, you take kids' t-shirts, and you wet them, wring them out, fold them into as small as you can get, and then put it in the freezer. And so on a hot summer day, they have to undo the first person to take the frozen compact t-shirt and undo it and get it on their body wins. And I say it's about a 20-minute activity. And those kindergartners talked about that activity for the rest of the year. It was amazing. They were like, oh, they used to call me Mrs. Pascal. Mrs. Pascal, can we come to your house and do the frozen t-shirt game? And so that's just one idea of what to do when you get home from work. I always love roughhousing. I love roughhousing because I think it's really just great for all parties involved. It works particularly well with dads and kids, but I didn't Pascal didn't have a dad in the picture, so I roughhoused all the time. Great activity. All I mean when I say slow summer is allow some rest in there, right? So those are some activities you can do with your kids that don't require a lot from you, except, being present, cheering them on, having some friends over maybe, and making a game out of it. A kiddie pool, just your basic kiddie pool. Even if you just have a balcony, it does wonders. I had our first year in this cabin in the woods here. We had Pascal's birthday. I now have it at my brother's because my brother has a more central location and he has one level and one spot. For me, I have a back deck that overlooks this ledge into the forest, but then my grill is in the front and then the chickens are off to the side and the creek is down the hill. And so everything gets really separated. But that first year I had a party for Pascal and my little nieces and nephews were here. There were 3 of them under the age of 4 and it was hot. Pascal's birthday is June 1st. It's almost always the hottest day, the first super hot day. And the kids were just getting sweaty. They were running down. They found a turtle. They were playing with the chickens. And I had coolers, with ice that had melted. And one of the kids was like, Auntie, can I jump in your pool? And I was like, I don't have a pool. And he said, look, and it was the cooler. And I said, yeah, jump in. So these 3 kids, they called it Auntie's pool. I was like, boy, you don't get more redneck rural than using a cooler with melted ice as a pool. But they they had a blast. And even now to this day, they're like, oh, Auntie, can we come back to your house and use your pool? And I'm like, yeah, you're 7 now. I don't know that you're going to even fit in the cooler. But so even a cooler with some cold water in it can be a pool. And kids love these makeshift things. And I'm telling you, that's where the memories come from. So if you can't swing a family vacation, I think it's pretty wild. I'm no longer on Facebook, but I remember seeing some posts back in the day about people bemoaning their lack of family vacation. And I just want to, I don't know, like, I'm not sure when family vacations became like a birthright. I mean, I think we all deserve rest and relaxation, don't get me wrong, but I don't know that we always have to do a huge vacation. And I remember when we were little, I think once we got like a cabin in New Hampshire by a lake, like it wasn't always this way. So don't be fooled by consumerism and commercialism. Like vacations can be just rest. Vacations can be, we're doing ice cream for dinner every night. And I fully approve of that. One thing Pascal and I did too, like if you have kids, maybe, well, he did this in preschool. So this could be, 3 and up, but his preschool loved doing polls. So they would set up polls on a clipboard. And if you give a 4-year-old a clipboard, man, they think they're the shit for that. So get a clipboard, and it can be, you can poll the family members or people out on anything. And so Pascal loved that. He loved what's your favorite dinner? Pizza or, chicken? And he would poll people. And then if you want to go to even further links, you can graph it, which is kind of cool. So like you learn that. And there's like a ton of learning that goes on that's involved in that. But one thing we did was, we sought out, we were like, okay, let's find the perfect ice cream in Rhode Island. So, a few times a week, we'd go for ice cream, a lot of times for dinner. And we had a grading system, and he quickly realized like ice cream made on the premise was always better. And then we talked about that. There was probably more buttermilk in that and more fat, and like what made ice cream good, the texture and the flavors. And we stuck to a couple of flavors so we could get consistency. And then at the end, we made up a little booklet for our friends of like our ratings of all the ice cream places in our immediate vicinity. And people loved it. And it was kind of like a theme, a focus for the summer. Like if we had nothing else going on, it's like, let's go try some ice cream. And so that's another idea that you could do. And these sort of things that aren't organized, they feel impromptu, they feel really special. And those are the things your kids are going to remember, and they don't stress you out. So whether you work in the home or whether you work outside the home, if you have your kids all day and you're managing a slow summer, that's great. But typically we get a little stressed out when our kids are home all day, right? If you're not accustomed to it. But either way, you've worked all day, right? And so make the evenings these slower things if you can. And I know it's so challenging right now. And I talk about this all the time. And we're reading Hunt, Gather, Parent as a book club in the Oh Crap Cafe. And like, it's so hard because we don't have neighborhood kids anymore. And I've said this a billion times, like if I had a magic wand, that's the one thing I'd bring back. I'd like eliminate organized activities. And, when the kids are a little bit older, yes. But for the under 6 crowd, like just keep it like home baking, cooking, making popsicles, again, backyard camping, fun things to do, lawn games, those kinds of things. Badminton, if your kids are a little older, volleyball net, if you have the space. These kinds of things are what build that connection and what make your kids feel connected to you, which is going to result in better behavior, better sleep, and it just helps you not be stressed and get the rest and relaxation. I'm going to do a reel on Instagram about this. If you spend some time modeling reading, yeah? So one of the things that occurred to me is I would, especially as a homeschooler, I was with my kid all day long, right? And so I never stopped to read for pleasure. And I would read at night. Well, a couple of things were happening. Number one, I couldn't get through a freaking book because I was so tired. I'd read one page and forget what I read and have to revisit it again. I got nowhere fast with a book. But I realized Pascal didn't really love reading on his own till much later. But he never saw me read for pleasure. And so we started taking reading breaks where I'd be like, you can get a book or you can play, but I'm sitting down to read. I need a little break. I'm going to go visit my book and go to another world in my book, and you can sit and read your book with me. I can read to you after I'm done reading, but I modeled reading for pleasure. I modeled like stop, drop, and read. I modeled like, hey, look, I need a little break. I need to disappear into another world. This book is really good. I'm going to sit and read. So that way you get your bucket full too. I just don't think this like sacrifice ourselves at the altar of parenting is good for anybody. And I want you to have a summer that you remember, that's sweet, like catching fireflies, or, I don't know, maybe they get a little bow and arrow or something, just something fun that's just different, that maybe just keeps them super intrigued, but can be done in your backyard or even in an apartment. There's so many ways to be creative with this, that you all get some rest and rejuvenation. And it's not just running around, finding a local watering hole if that's available. There's nothing like those. I mean, I live rurally, so we have a ton of the little lakes and ponds where somebody always hooks up a rope swing to a tree. And, but that can be fun, like heading out for an adventure a little later. Maybe, if your kids are past the point of needing a strict bedtime routine, maybe it's going to look at the stars, driving a little farther out. These are the things, again, I think that create those beautiful memories. And it is kind of wild, when you think about like how many summers you have with your kids, right? And it's not anything that I want you to be freaked out. I hate that, like, you only have this much time, so you better get on it and make it fucking special. I don't like that pressure, but I do think the summer is so magical for kids. And I think that there's ways to make it fun, but restful. And so I really encourage you to slow down, more quiet time, more reading time, maybe, and find things that you like to do. Don't play pretend with your kid if you don't like to play pretend. And you can tell them, I'm a grown up. I don't know how to pretend anymore. I'll build blocks with you. And I used to tell Pascal all the time, like, I like to build stuff. Like, I really like to build stuff. So I would be like, I'll build something with you, I think I said this before on the podcast. One time we made this, he loved trains. And so we made this like train out of boxes, with like, kind of like straps that he could put over his shoulder so he could wear it. But man, I went to town. I went to Home Depot. I got chain link to link them together. I got dowels for the wheels so they moved. It was awesome. And like 9 rolls of duct tape later. So I like doing stuff like that. And I'll spend hours with him, or we would do Rube Goldberg's, and we love doing that. But if he wanted me to play pretend, I was like, dude, I can't. Like, it's not interesting to me. And it's your game because you're a kid and that's where your brain's at and my brain's over here. So I'll read my book and watch you play pretend, and that'll be awesome. So don't stress yourselves out, parents. Don't stress yourselves out trying to make memories. Don't stress yourself out trying to entertain your kid. That's where the boredom comes in. It's okay to slow down. It's okay to talk into a moving fan and sound like a robot. It's okay to give them a couple of squirt bottles or water balloons or whatever. Like, there's so many outside lawn games that you could do. Again, even if you're in an apartment situation, maybe you can find a park or just some patch of land or street. The house I grew up in, we had a tiny yard, but man, the kids, we played hard. We played hard in the street. So I know your littles can't do that, obviously, but family bike rides, family walks, these kinds of things. So that's my diatribe on slow down. And again, I wanted to just clarify my position because I think it's a contentious world in parenting right now where people feel bad if they have to work or send their kids to camp or their kids need to be in daycare. People feel bad if they don't have a family vacation. Like, don't feel bad. Make the memories other places. The best thing you can do making memories with your kids is to just be connected to them. Slow down. They want you. They want you more than anything. So whatever you guys are doing is going to be super fun. So don't be bummed out if you're in a position where you think you don't have choices, because you can use the time after work. You can use weekends. You can use mornings. Slow down, have some fun, and rest, relax, and rejuvenate. All right. As always, I appreciate you guys. I want to clarify, I have two online communities right now. One is called the Oh Crap Cafe, and that is for parenting. I have a lot of people signing up for that, asking potty training questions. That is not for potty training. It's just for parenting. And that is because if I open it for potty training, it will be very, very popular, and it is not for that. And so that's not where I'm answering potty training questions. And I have a the poop group, and that is an online community for people with pooping struggles, not general potty training. Again, we haven't opened anything like that yet. That is for you if you're struggling with poop withholding issues, very specific, because that is a big issue right now. So anyway, I wanted to clarify those so that you're not confused if you go to my website and you want to join. And like I said, we're doing a book group with Hunt, Gather, Parent, and that is awesome. I love that book. So maybe if you want to join us, I'll put the link in the show notes. All right. As always, I appreciate you. I appreciate you listening. If you want to rate and review this podcast, that helps other parents see it. It increases visibility. And as always, have a beautiful day and rock on.
Okay, bye everyone. Just a reminder, if you need additional resources, I have Oh Crap Potty Training. I have Oh Crap, I Have a Toddler. Those books are available everywhere you want to find a book. You can also go to my website, jamieglowacki.com, where you can book private sessions with me, buy any of my courses. Those are really geared towards potty training help. And also I'm on Instagram. I'm not on Facebook anymore, and I'm not on Twitter. I'm on Instagram, jamie.glowacki, and I do a lot of lives and usually posting a lot of good information. So those are extra resources for you. And as always, rock on. Have an awesome day.